You're going to die. Everything you are building will collapse sooner or later. Every person you love will leave you, either through death or the inevitable distance that life creates. Every moment of joy you experience will be followed by an equal or even greater measure of suffering. And in the end, when you look back, you will discover something even more disturbing. You wasted most of your life longing for what you did not have, suffering over what you already possessed, and spending precious time chasing satisfactions that never lasted longer than a fleeting moment. That is life according to Arthur Schopenhauer. Not the romanticized version sold to you in movies, not the comforting narrative of modern self-help books, not the reassuring lie that everything happens for a reason or that the universe has a special plan just for you. Schopenhauer offers something far rarer and infinitely harder to accept. A cold, honest, and brutal description of what it truly means to be alive and conscious in this world. And before you click away thinking this is just cheap pessimism, understand one fundamental thing. Schopenhauer did not want to make you depressed. He wanted to wake you up. In his view, most people spend their entire lives operating under deep illusions about the nature of existence. And those illusions bring no real happiness. They trap people in endless cycles of frustration, expectation, and unnecessary suffering. Today, you're going to hear the core of Schopenhauer's philosophy of life. Without filters, without sugarcoating, without trying to make it easier to swallow. The raw and unvarnished truth he distilled through decades of relentless observation of the human condition. And if you have the courage to face it directly, that truth may do something unexpected. It may free you from the illusions that have kept you trapped for years. Schopenhauer's first fundamental truth is simple, yet devastating. You are, at your core, a machine of desire. Not occasionally, not only when you pursue great ambitions, but constantly, without pause. From the moment you open your eyes until the moment you fall asleep, something is always missing. Food when you are hungry, relief when you are in pain, validation when you feel insecure, distraction when boredom appears. And here lies the central problem of human existence. To desire means, by definition, to be dissatisfied. You only desire what you do not have. The moment you obtain the object of your desire, something strange happens. The desire disappears, and with it disappears the motivation that kept your mind occupied. What remains is a brief moment of satisfaction, followed by emptiness. And that emptiness quickly creates a new desire. Then the cycle begins all over again. This movement is not an accident. It is built into the structure of existence. Think honestly about your own life. How many things have you desired intensely? How many did you believe would finally make you feel complete? How many did you achieve, only to discover that the feeling of fulfillment lasted days, perhaps weeks, before you returned to the familiar state of wanting something more? The job that promised fulfillment, the relationship that promised happiness, the success that promised peace. They all delivered only temporary satisfaction before you returned to your normal state. Expectation, restlessness, and renewed desire. Schopenhauer called this mechanism the will, with a capital W. Not your personal will, but a blind, irrational, and impersonal force that runs through all existence. A force that reveals itself within you as that constant hunger for something beyond the present moment. You did not choose to have this will. It does not ask for your permission. It possesses you. You are merely the vessel through which it expresses itself. Always searching, always pushing forward, always dissatisfied, and never truly at peace. According to Schopenhauer, modern society has made this infinitely worse. Today, you are not only dealing with your natural basic needs, you live under a constant bombardment of carefully engineered stimuli designed to create artificial desires. Desires you never would have had if no one were profiting from your sense of lack. All advertising exists for one psychological purpose: to make you dissatisfied with what you have and make you desire what you do not. None of it is neutral. None of it is innocent. Every image, every slogan, every unspoken promise is carefully crafted to activate the same fundamental wound, the feeling that something is missing from your life. Social media amplifies this exponentially. You are no longer exposed only to products, but to carefully edited versions of other people's lives, selected moments, filtered victories, rehearsed smiles. And from that comparison, desire is born. You no longer want just something. You want to become someone who appears to be living a better life than you. Schopenhauer described this process long before it existed in its modern form. A treadmill of desire that never stops accelerating, yet never actually takes you anywhere. Every time you think you've arrived, that you finally have enough, a new message appears telling you that what you really need is more money, more status, more experiences, more validation, always more. And the faster you run, the farther away the finish line seems to move. Schopenhauer's second brutal truth is even harder to accept. Suffering is not the exception in life, it is the rule. You have been conditioned to believe that happiness is the normal state and suffering is merely a temporary deviation, a mistake that needs to be corrected. Schopenhauer completely reverses that logic. For him, suffering is the default condition of conscious existence. Happiness, when it appears, is merely a temporary relief from that ongoing suffering. Consider something simple. Hunger. When you are hungry, you suffer. When you eat, you feel relief, and you call that relief pleasure. But pleasure is not something inherently positive. It is simply the temporary absence of a specific discomfort. Soon enough, hunger returns, or thirst, or physical pain, or boredom, or anxiety. There is always another form of suffering waiting to fill every brief space where suffering is absent. And the deepest forms of suffering, the ones that truly shape the human experience, are not optional. They are inevitable and universal. You will experience rejection. You will endure loss. You will fail. You will face humiliation. You will become ill. You will grow old. You will watch people you love suffer without being able to save them. You will confront your own mortality. You will recognize the impermanence of everything you value. These are not flaws in the system of life. They are not bad luck. They are fundamental features of being alive. When you realize that you have lived under illusions about the nature of existence, and you are ready to face this reality without anesthesia, leave a comment below. I see the truth. Most people, when confronted with these truths, do not reflect. They run. They run toward constant distraction, obsessive work, endless consumption, infinite entertainment, dramatic relationships, anything that avoids silence, anything that prevents a direct confrontation with their own existence. And modern society makes this escape easier than ever, offering unlimited distraction on demand. But Schopenhauer warned that these escapes do not reduce suffering. They prolong it, they intensify it, because you waste enormous amounts of energy preserving illusions that will inevitably collapse. And when they do collapse, the collision with reality is even more brutal, because you never developed the inner strength to face it. Schopenhauer's third truth goes even further in challenging common sense. You are not as free as you believe. In reality, you are almost completely shaped by forces beyond your control. Your genetics determine your inclinations, limits, and impulses. Your environment shapes your values, beliefs, and expectations. Your past creates automatic patterns that you repeat without even realizing it. What you call free choices are often nothing more than predictable reactions to old conditioning. And the less aware you are of this, the more convinced you become that you are in control. Meanwhile, you are being guided by invisible forces, and beneath it all lies the blind will, pushing you in directions that you later rationalize as your own free decisions. You believe you chose your career. But if you look honestly, it was probably the result of family pressure, limited opportunities, talents you never chose, and desires that were imprinted on you by the culture in which you grew up. Do you think you chose your partner? In most cases, your choice was shaped by physical attraction driven by evolutionary preferences beyond your control, emotional needs rooted in childhood, and pure chance. Who happened to be available at the right moment? That does not mean you have no agency. It simply means that the true scope of your freedom is much smaller than you were taught to believe. And here lies the central paradox. Recognizing this can be liberating. When you stop pretending that you are completely free, you also stop judging yourself so harshly for mistakes that were, to a large extent, determined by forces outside your control. Constant self-criticism is born from the illusion of complete control. Schopenhauer's fourth brutal truth goes even deeper into human discomfort. Human relationships are fundamentally problematic. Schopenhauer became famous for his pessimism about relationships, especially romantic ones. Although he sometimes pushed his conclusions to extremes that are not always useful, the core of his criticism remains compelling. Relationships are not built on pure altruism. They are built on mutual needs. You do not love someone in a completely selfless way. You love because that person fulfills emotional, physical, social, or psychological needs within you, and the other person is with you for the very same reasons. As long as those needs remain aligned, the relationship works. But people change. Needs change. And what once worked eventually no longer does. That is where conflict, resentment, silent frustration, and ultimately separation, or bitter resignation, begin. Even the best relationships contain unavoidable suffering, because to love is to become vulnerable. It means depending on someone who can disappoint you, abandon you, or die. The more deeply you love, the more you stand to lose. And sooner or later, inevitably, you will lose. Every relationship comes to an end, if not through separation, then through death. From the very beginning, love carries within it the seed of its own future suffering. Schopenhauer did not say that you should avoid relationships altogether. He said something far more difficult. Enter them without illusions, without fantasies of eternal love, without stories of soulmates, without promises of lasting happiness. Relationships are practical arrangements between two beings driven by the will, each seeking to satisfy mutual needs. They can be deeply valuable, but they are always temporary, and they are always intertwined with suffering. The fifth truth may be the heaviest of them all. Life has no inherent purpose or meaning. You exist because your parents reproduced. They existed because their parents did the same. And so on, all the way back to single-celled organisms that began replicating through purely chemical processes. There is no grand plan, no designer, no higher intention. There is only a blind process of replication expressing itself through increasingly complex forms. And you, with your developed consciousness, carry a unique burden, the ability to recognize the absence of purpose. Animals follow their instincts without questioning them. Human beings question everything. They search for meaning, and they suffer when they fail to find it. You want your life to matter. You want your actions to leave a lasting mark. You want to believe that your existence changed something. But on the cosmic scale, you are temporary, insignificant, and within a few generations, you will be completely forgotten. Perhaps that is the heaviest truth of all, and it is precisely why human beings created religions, ideologies, philosophies, and grand narratives, each promising a greater meaning waiting to be discovered or created. Schopenhauer invites you to confront the uncomfortable possibility that all of those meanings are human constructions, created to cover a fundamental void. Faced with all of this, one inevitable question arises. What is the point then? Why keep going? Schopenhauer does not offer comforting answers. Instead, he offers something far rarer, an honest recognition of reality combined with practical strategies for minimizing suffering as much as possible. The first strategy is simple. Reduce your desires instead of trying to satisfy every one of them. Every desire is a potential source of suffering. The less you desire, the less you suffer when you fail to get what you want. That does not mean complete renunciation or an extreme ascetic lifestyle. It means constantly questioning whether you truly need what you believe you need. The second strategy is to find activities that completely absorb your attention. Activities that temporarily suspend your awareness of yourself, and with it, the constant suffering that accompanies that awareness. Rare moments when the will falls silent, art, music, philosophy, any experience that takes you beyond yourself, even if only for a little while, moments when your attention dissolves, your ego grows quiet, and your mind stops endlessly revolving around its own perceived shortcomings. These experiences are not permanent solutions. Schopenhauer never claimed they were. But they are genuine moments of relief from the constant burden of conscious existence. For a few minutes, sometimes even hours, the will weakens, and that temporary silence is already something valuable. Schopenhauer's third strategy is deeper than it first appears. Develop universal compassion, not out of moral idealism, but out of clear understanding. When you recognize that every person is trapped within the same blind will, struggling with desires they never chose, suffering they never wanted, and frustrations they cannot escape, something changes inside you. The person who irritates you, the one who disappointed you, the one who acted selfishly, they are all expressions of the very same mechanism. That understanding does not make the world fair, but it reduces unnecessary conflict, impulsive reactions, and additional suffering. In that sense, patience and kindness are not romantic virtues. They are rational strategies for reducing suffering. The fourth strategy may be the hardest of all to practice. Deeply accept the impermanence of everything. Nothing lasts. No person, no circumstance, no success. Stop clinging desperately to things that, by their very nature, will change or disappear. Appreciate what is present, but maintain enough inner distance to let go when the time comes. Excessive attachment is one of the greatest sources of avoidable suffering. The harder you try to freeze what is impermanent, the more pain you create for yourself. You probably began this video expecting something depressing, and in a way, it is. Schopenhauer offers no easy comfort. He promises no future happiness. He does not sell hope disguised as wisdom. But there is a strange and powerful freedom in encountering the truth without anesthesia. Because once you stop expecting life to be something it never was, you stop suffering from the gap between expectation and reality. According to Schopenhauer, life is fundamentally marked by unfulfilled desire and unavoidable suffering. You're not as free as you think. You're not as important as you would like to believe. And there is no cosmic meaning waiting to be discovered. Relationships are complex and temporary. Pleasure is merely a momentary relief from discomfort. And in the end, everything you build will eventually fall apart. That is the truth no one wants to hear. But once accepted, it allows you to live with fewer illusions, fewer unrealistic expectations, and therefore fewer devastating disappointments. That may not make you happy in the conventional sense, but it may accomplish something far more realistic. It may help you suffer less. For Schopenhauer, reducing suffering was a more honest goal than chasing an impossible version of happiness. If you are looking for philosophy that offers no artificial comfort, but instead delivers brutal clarity, subscribe to the channel. Here, we do not sell empty hope. We offer clarity. Schopenhauer summarized life in a way that very few dare to. And although that truth hurts, it also liberates. It frees you from expectations that were never going to be fulfilled, from hopes that would always have ended in disappointment, from illusions that only prolonged your suffering. Life is hard. Schopenhauer never pretended otherwise. But he left behind something rare, the wisdom to carry that burden without being completely crushed by it. Use that wisdom. And if you're ready for the next level, the next video is appearing on your screen now. Click it. The illusion will not wait.